I walked into a store, looked at a bar of soap that cost $11, and walked right back out, because I knew deep down that I could make the exact same thing at home for less than $2. But here's the thing about confidence. Sometimes it's just arrogance in disguise. I've never made soap in my life. I don't know the first thing about lye, saponification, or what curing actually means. But I watched a 20-minute video, bought some ingredients, and convinced myself I was about to become a master artisan. What happened next was not what I expected. I didn't just save money. I discovered something about store-bought soap that genuinely shocked me. And by the end of this experiment, I wasn't just holding a bar of homemade soap. I was holding a completely different understanding of what soap even is. This is not a sponsored video. I bought everything with my own money. And honestly, I wish someone had warned me before I started. Let me give you some context. The global soap industry is worth over $30 billion. $30 billion. And yet, the basic chemistry behind soap hasn't changed much in the last 5,000 years. The ancient Babylonians were making soap around 2800 BC using fats and wood ash. The Romans refined it, and somehow in the 21st century, we're paying $11 for a single bar of something that our ancestors made from animal fat and fireplace leftovers. Now, I'm not saying modern soap is bad. I'm not saying handmade soap is automatically better. But what I am saying is this: when you break down the ingredients, the manufacturing process, and the markups, something doesn't add up. The average commercial soap bar costs about $1 to produce, gets sold to a retailer for $3, and ends up on your shelf for $8 to $12. That's a huge markup. And the ingredients? Most of them are synthetic detergents, artificial fragrances, and chemical preservatives that have nothing to do with traditional soap making. So I asked myself a simple question: can I, a complete beginner with zero experience, make a proper bar of soap at home that actually works and save $50 in the process? The internet said yes, my gut said maybe, and my kitchen said absolutely not. But I decided to find out for real. Before I started, I did what any sensible person would do. I researched. I watched videos. I read forums. And the more I learned, the more intimidated I became. Because soap making is not just mixing stuff in a bowl. There's actual chemistry involved. You have to work with lye, which is caustic soda, a highly alkaline substance that can burn your skin if you're not careful. You have to measure ingredients to the exact gram, and there's a process called saponification where the lye reacts with fats to create soap and glycerin. If you mess up the ratios, you don't get soap. You get a greasy, caustic mess that you can't use. I bought safety gear, goggles, gloves, and a face mask. I set up my workspace on the kitchen counter, far away from any food. I measured my oils, olive oil, coconut oil, and palm oil, into a precise container. I measured the lye and water separately, and I prepared myself for what I hoped would be a simple process. But there was one thing I didn't prepare for: the smell. When I mixed the lye into the water, the temperature shot up to over 200 degrees Fahrenheit, and the fumes that rose from that mixture were harsh, sharp, and burning. Even with the mask on, my eyes started watering. I had to open every window in the kitchen just to breathe. That was moment number one where I realized this is not a beginner-friendly craft. I kept going. I mixed the lye solution into the oils, and I started blending. The instructions said to blend until the mixture reaches trace, a stage where the batter thickens and leaves a visible trail when you drizzle it on top. I blended for 5 minutes. Nothing. 10 minutes. Still liquid. 15 minutes. Finally, a thin trail appeared. I poured it into a silicone mold, covered it with a towel, and placed it in a warm spot to cure. The instructions said to wait 24 hours before unmolding, and then 6 weeks before using it. 6 weeks. For 1 bar of soap. I sat back, looked at the mold, and asked myself, was this really worth it? I was supposed to save money, not spend the next month and a half waiting. Okay, let me be honest with you. The first thing I noticed was the texture. When I unmolded the soap after 24 hours, it was soft, almost like fudge. Not hard, not solid, just squishy. I thought I had done something wrong. But the instructions said this was normal. The soap would harden as it cured over the coming weeks. So I cut it into bars, and I waited, and waited, and waited. During those 6 weeks, I kept checking the soap, poking it, smelling it, trying to gauge whether it was actually changing or if I had just made an expensive science project that would never be usable. I also kept track of my expenses. Here's the breakdown. Olive oil, $8 for a large bottle, used about $3 worth. Coconut oil, $6 for a jar, used about $2 worth. Palm oil, $5, used about $2 worth. Lye, $10 for a bag, used about $1 worth. Distilled water, $1. Fragrance oil, $5, used a few drops. Silicone mold, $12, one-time purchase, not recurring. Safety gear, $15, one-time purchase. Total cost for my first batch, roughly $22, including reusable items. Excluding the mold and gear, the actual soap cost was about $9 for 6 bars. That's $1.50 per bar. Compare that to a premium natural soap I was buying in stores, $11 per bar. The same size, the same claims, the same natural branding. If I made 6 batches, I would save roughly $50 compared to buying store-bought. But I still hadn't used the soap yet. 6 weeks later, I finally took 1 bar, brought it to the sink, wet my hands, and rubbed. And nothing happened. No lather, no bubbles, no foam, just a slippery, greasy residue on my hands. I thought I had failed. I thought the entire experiment was a disaster. I thought I had wasted 6 weeks of my life for a bar of useless, slimy oil. But then I realized I was holding the soap wrong. I hadn't let it warm up under running water. I hadn't rubbed it enough. I was expecting it to behave like commercial soap, which is packed with synthetic foaming agents. I kept going. I held the bar under warm water for a full 10 seconds. I rubbed my hands together aggressively, and slowly, magically, a rich, creamy lather started to form. Not the fluffy, airy foam of store soap, but a dense, creamy, moisturizing lather that felt completely different on my skin. And that's when something unexpected happened. I washed my hands, dried them, and walked away. But something felt off. My hands didn't feel like they usually did after washing. They didn't feel tight or dry. They felt soft, almost like I had applied a thin layer of lotion. I checked the ingredients of my store soap. It contained sodium lauryl sulfate, a harsh detergent that strips natural oils from your skin. My homemade soap contained only saponified oils, meaning the natural glycerin was still present. Glycerin is a humectant. It attracts moisture to your skin. Commercial soap manufacturers often remove glycerin during processing because it still breaks everything from profit. That's why store soap is drying. That's why your hands feel rough after washing. My homemade soap still had all its glycerin intact. That's why my hands felt softer, not drier. I was not expecting that. I was expecting to save money. I was not expecting my skin to actually improve. But there was more. I decided to test my homemade soap against the store soap in 3 areas: cleaning power, moisturizing effect, and longevity. For cleaning power, I used both soaps on greasy dishes. The store soap dissolved grease faster, thanks to those synthetic detergents. But the homemade soap cleaned just as well. It just took about 30 seconds longer. For moisturizing effect, I washed my hands with each soap 5 times a day for a week. The store soap left my hands dry and cracked by day 3. A homemade soap left my hands soft and smooth even on day 7. For longevity, I weighed both bars before and after 1 week of use. The store soap lost 35% of its weight. The homemade soap lost only 18%. That means my homemade soap not only felt better, it lasted almost twice as long. Now, here's where I have to be honest about the downsides. The homemade soap doesn't lather as quickly. You have to warm it under water for a few seconds. That's an adjustment. And the bar is softer than store soap, so if you leave it in standing water, it will dissolve faster than you expect. But that's it. Those are the only downsides. Let me give you the final numbers. Store-bought premium natural soap, $11 per bar, sold at major retailers, made with questionable ingredients and synthetic detergents. Dries out your skin, lasts about 1 week of daily use. My homemade soap, $1.50 per bar, excluding one-time equipment. Made with 4 simple ingredients, contains natural glycerin, moisturizes your skin, lasts about 2 weeks of daily use. That means per bar, I saved $9.50. And over the course of making 6 bars, I saved roughly $57 compared to buying the same amount of premium store soap. But the savings aren't just financial. I also saved my skin from harsh chemicals. I saved myself from the dry, tight feeling after washing. I saved the time I would have spent searching for a good soap in the store. And honestly, I saved myself from the embarrassment of continuing to overpay for something I can make in my own kitchen. Now, I'm not saying every homemade soap is perfect. My first batch had some air bubbles. My second batch was too soft. I had to learn, but by my third batch, the soap was better than anything I had ever bought. The store soap is still better for convenience. It lathers instantly, it smells stronger, and it's ready to use straight out of the box. But if you're willing to wait 6 weeks and invest a small amount of time, the homemade version is genuinely superior in every meaningful way. Does making your own natural soap actually save you money? Yes. Unequivocally, yes. Does it work better than store-bought soap? For skin health, yes. For longevity, yes. For cleaning power, it's comparable. Should you do it? If you are someone who uses natural soap regularly, if you have sensitive skin, or if you just hate overpaying for basic products, absolutely give this a try. But let me be completely honest about what you're signing up for. This is not a quick project. You will spend 6 weeks waiting for your soap to cure. You will handle caustic lye, which is dangerous if you're careless. You will make mistakes. My first batch was too oily. My second batch was too dry. My third batch was perfect. And you will need some basic equipment, a scale, a thermometer, a stick blender, a mold. These things cost money up front, but they are one-time purchases. After that, your cost per bar drops to about $1. So here's my honest recommendation. Make your first batch with cheap oils. Don't waste money on fancy fragrances until you know the process. But when you finally hold that bar in your hands and wash with something you made from scratch, it's genuinely satisfying. Not just because of the money, but because you know exactly what's in it. You know there's nothing synthetic, nothing harsh, nothing unnecessary. You're washing your skin with something that's been made the same way for centuries. And that's worth more than any $11 bar of soap. If you enjoyed this experiment and you want to see more real tests like this, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell, because next time I'm testing something even crazier. I'm going to take a completely different, forgotten hack, something that sounds so ridiculous. I honestly don't know if it's going to work, but that's what makes this interesting. The only way to know for sure is to test it. If you try making soap at home, let me know in the comments. I genuinely want to hear about your results, especially if you use a different oil combination or a unique fragrance. Thanks for watching. And remember, sometimes the best things are the ones you make yourself. You just have to be willing to try. See you in the next one.